and welcome back. Remember, we are shooting directly from the beautiful El Dorado Royal Spa Resort by Charisma, a gorgeous gourmet inclusive resort located in the heart of Riviera Maya. With excellent news for you coming right ahead, but before we start, let me remind you once again to log on to our website 24/7 on information on Mexico and the world at www.mexiconewsnetwork.com, and also follow us on social networks on Google+, Facebook, and Twitter. You'll find us as Mexico News Network. Now let's continue with today's breaking news. I have a quick question for you. Are you a Game of Thrones fan? Let's just see how you like this. Epic author George R.R. Martin himself will be present at the 2015 edition of the International Book Fair of Guadalajara, better known as FIL Guadalajara, which will take place from November 28th to December the 6th. According to his official website, George Martin will only be present on the 4th and 5th of December. Game of Thrones started off with the literary saga A Song of Ice and Fire and reached global fame when HBO adapted it to an award-winning television series. The story takes place in a fictional world of a medieval fantasy where dragons, magic, and mystical creatures exist. The plot revolves around the many struggles of several noble families to seize power after the king is killed by a wild boar during a hunting expedition. The event Martin will be attending is in fact one of Mexico's largest and most widely acclaimed cultural events, known for hosting renowned and controversial guests, such as Peruvian author Mario Vargas Llosa, Israeli Nobel laureate Ada Yonath, and Welsh author Ken Follett. Last year, President Enrique Peña Nieto made an active presence. One very curious piece of trivia on Martin is his very cautious nature. This was perhaps best exemplified when he decided to reveal the saga's ending to the TV series producers. The American author did this in the event that he should pass away before the series was completed. Today, he's 66 years old. So, if you're a fan, you don't need to worry about the series ending unfinished. As of now, the Game of Thrones Season 5 premiere, Wars to Come, which was this past Sunday, April 12th, was one of the most waited for events of the year. Fans all over the world anxiously got ready to enjoy the hour-long episode 1 of Season 5 of Game of Thrones. Sadly, the immediate response of fans was somewhat disappointing for them, who were in fact looking for more action. However, things suddenly turned as 4 unaired episodes of the series were leaked on piracy websites a full day ahead of the season's premiere, which piqued the interest of many viewers. The HBO series is based on George R.R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire book, but writers D.B. Weiss and David Benioff were still able to inject a few storylines that are not included in the books. In the past, Game of Thrones uses its season premiere to shape the entire season. In the Season 5 premiere, although nothing major happened, some of the scenes within the episode itself give a great idea of what Season 5 entirely will be all about. Everyone was not too ecstatic about the season premiere if social media is any indicator of this. Forbes reports that nearly half of the unaired Game of Thrones leaked online, and according to Variety, the leaked episodes have over 1.7 million downloads in just a 24-hour span. Software giant Google may be on track to create its own mobile network. Rather than installing its own infrastructure, it plans to use the one currently in place in countries worldwide. The main goal is to provide customers with the same cost on calls, text, and data plan regardless of the customer's location. The planned result would be a global network that would allow users to navigate free of charge while abroad in order to eliminate expensive roaming rates. To accomplish this, Google is in fact partnering up with Hutchison Whampoa, as revealed by British daily The Telegraph. Hutchinson Whampoa is an investment holding company based in Hong Kong and the owner of mobile operator 3, which offers service in Italy, Austria, Sweden, Denmark, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Ireland, and United Kingdom. It was chosen as a partner to venture into this new type of service in order to develop a telecom company beyond the services and tools currently offered. Sundar Pichai, Senior VP at Google, explained during the recent Mobile World Congress that Google's intention is in fact to launch a global mobile network by using existing infrastructure of local and foreign mobile companies and achieving strategic agreements with said providers. The company has described the project as small scale, but mobile communication and analysts believe it may pressure big mobile operators in the United States, such as Verizon and AT&T, to modify their rates and provide benefits on par with their European counterparts. Now, a recently published study authored by researchers from the Santa Fe Institute of New Mexico seems to validate a long-standing hunch regarding cities and productivity. A key property of modern cities is increasing returns to scale, reads an abstract from the study's working paper. The fact that many socioeconomic outputs increase more rapidly than population. The full study was published this year by Luis Betancourt, Scott Ortman, J.O. Sturm, and A.H.A. Cabanis. It represents a multidisciplinary effort of academics from the fields of anthropology and physics to examine the nature of complex systems, which itself constitutes one of the main goals of SFI. Essentially, the paper is grounded upon the widely acknowledged premise that people who live in urban populations are generally more productive and use less energy than those living in more sparsely populated areas, such as suburbs in countrysides. This appears to be because the density of cities appear to foster social networks that make certain aspects of life, such as securing water, food, clothing, or other products, much easier. Having less to worry about in this regard enables city dwellers to be more productive in other areas. Hereby, the more a city grows, the more productive its citizens become, and the more efficient their energy consumption becomes. This is normally measured by analyzing gross domestic product. While this may seem quite plausible for modern-day cities with access to increasingly novel forms of technology and greater interconnectivity, the researchers believed that this dynamic can take place regardless of whether or not modern levels of technological development are available. Indeed, they believe that this premise was applicable even when ancient societies were around. To demonstrate this, the team reviewed several pre-Columbian settlements which inhabited territories of what are now different parts of modern-day Mexico up until the 16th century AD, when the Aztec Empire ruled. Seeing as how there is no archaeological record of pre-Columbian gross domestic product per se, the researchers measured the volume of public works and monuments. From this point on, defined words as public architecture built per year. Remarkably, the researchers found that the volume of public architecture built per year appeared to outpace population growth in larger cities, much in the same way gross domestic product outpaces population growth in modern-day cities. In other words, of city lapses, electric job, larger groups of urban laborers built bigger monuments than smaller groups and built them faster. While this parameter was used to measure social productivity, personal productivity, essential wealth, was measured in fact based on housing sizes. The results appear to be similar. The larger the city, the larger the individual housing on average. Based on this, the researchers concluded that the productivity and energy efficiency of urbanities appears not to be a recent phenomenon exclusive to modernity. It is rather a benefit that is inherent to dense urban areas with developed social networks. Though this pattern appears to increase as cities grow, the paper stops short of suggesting it applies to all cities or is perpetual. One notable pre-Columbian example is the city of Cantona, which, with an estimated peak population of 80,000 at one point, rivaled the mighty Teotihuacan in population alone, only to be abandoned 1,000 years ago. Although many mysteries remain, we know for a fact that Cantona's population actually increased during the time of below average rainfall. The reasons for this are speculated to have been an influx of rural migrants seeking refuge from the hardship brought on by droughts. Eventually, the lack of food from the countryside plus the city's inability to absorb higher rates of immigration may have led to internal conflict of the abandonment of the city itself. Moving along to more news, Mexico is a diverse nation, culturally and genetically speaking. Geneticists of the University of California and the University of Stanford have in fact managed to trace the history of Mexico by using a genetic map, which could be used to transform medical diagnostic tools and treatments. The team of researchers created a blueprint of Mexico's genetic diversity, using a sample of 20 indigenous genomes from all over Mexico, as well as 11 from people from Mexico and the southwestern United States, with mixed indigenous Mexican and European ancestry, commonly known as mestizos. According to Carlos Bustamante, a geneticist at Stanford University, because of its geographical barriers, indigenous populations have developed many genetic differences which can represent a problem for their descendants, mainly because these variants can increase the risk of diseases or resistance to certain medicines. After an analysis of 511 indigenous individuals, the team concluded that the most divergent and indigenous groups in Mexico are as different from each other as Europeans are different from East Asians. As a consequence of the Spanish conquest, indigenous communities interbred with European and African populations, and their descendants now make up the current population of Mexico. Thanks to the collaboration of the Mexican National Institute of Genomic Medicine, Bustamante's team could learn that rare gene variations in indigenous people were also present in the mestizo population, making it even possible to track their indigenous ancestors. A very easy example of this are the genetic Maya markers found in people from the Yucatan Peninsula. These markers are also present in people from Veracruz, which reflects the trade and migration routes both populations shared. Beyond the historical and social benefits that this investigation can have, its main objective is to determine how genetic variation could influence the health of the current population. Esteban Burchard, a pulmonologist at UC's San Francisco campus, analyzed the results and concluded that depending upon the type of Native American ancestry you have, it can dramatically influence the diagnosis of lung disease in a good or bad way. Excellent news, don't you think? Now we'll be right back with more information after these few messages from our sponsors.
Audio Jungle.